welcome to Wonderful Revolution. For those of you who have been tuning in, we just got back to the United States after hiking the Camino de Santiago.
So right before we left, we made a video talking about our packing list and what we planned on carrying with us. Today we're going to revisit that packing list, talk to you a little bit about what worked for us, what didn't, and what we would change.
So if you haven't watched our initial packing video, we do have a link to it in the description below. Go ahead and click and watch that one first. Go ahead, we'll wait.
Are you back yet? I don't even have a watch. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the two major items that we took on our trip. That would be our backpack and our shoes. Let's start with the backpacks. I took a Gregory Maven 50 liter, and it actually worked really well for me. It was my first time using a Gregory, and I actually really like the pack a lot. It's probably a lot bigger than most people feel they need on the Camino, but we were carrying a lot of extra video equipment and stuff with us, so we felt we needed a little bit of extra room. The things I really liked about that backpack were the extra padding, especially in the straps, and it just was very, very comfortable. If I had it to do again, I might try to find something that's a little bit smaller but still comfortable.
So my backpack was an Osprey Atmos AG50. So once again, we have gotten feedback that our packs were massive for the Camino. For what we were doing and what we wanted to accomplish along this trip, it worked really well. I was carrying a laptop, camera gear, so I don't honestly think I could have gone smaller with this pack. Before we actually got these packs, we did try smaller packs that just did not have enough room. So if you're doing just the Camino and taking pictures with your phone, you probably can get away with a 36 40 liter pack.
So the next big item on our packing list was our boots. And if you remember, we both decided to go with a full height boot because we were expecting to have lots of rain and mud and things like that along the Camino in the month of April. Well, we definitely had exactly that. The first week, 10 days, there was so much rain, mud, half the time the trail looked like it was a river.
So overall, I was extremely happy with the Solomons. They kept the water out, they kept my feet warm. They weren't too hot during the hottest portions of the Camino. I was blister free for the first 250 miles.
Yeah, and I actually had no problems at all, no blisters whatsoever the entire trip. I had a few hot spots at a couple different points, but overall the boot performed perfectly for me. So for sleeping, we both took a blanket called a rumple blanket, and it's basically sleeping bag material, but it's just a flat blanket. And we also took these thin silk liners to use. They worked well. They were really hot at some points where you really just couldn't even lay on it or have it over you, so they did keep us pretty warm. I think if we had to do it over again, we might actually just go with a regular sleeping bag, but just making sure that it's lightweight and comfortable.
So one of the next things that we're going to talk about was probably one of the most controversial issues on the Camino. What do I go with? Do I go with a raincoat, rain pants, or a poncho? So a poncho is lighter. We opted for the raincoat and the rain pants because it is extremely windy on the Camino. There's multiple times we saw pilgrims that were absolutely soaked because their ponchos were blowing. There's other people who didn't run into the same weather that we did, so we decided to err on the side of caution and go with the combo that we did.
The rain pants and the rain jacket worked great for us. It kept us dry. We also had a pack cover. If you're not going to go with the poncho, you absolutely will need a pack cover. You don't want your pack getting soaked. The downside to the pack cover is the straps on the front are still exposed, so they do get wet, whereas with the poncho, those tend to stay a little bit drier. It's really a give or take thing. Okay, so as far as clothing, we both took 2 sets of clothes. We each had 2 shirts and 2 pairs of pants. Jed tried to take convertible pants, and I took 1 pair of convertible pants and 1 pair that was able to be rolled up. For the most part, having the 2 sets of clothes worked really well for us. We were able to have a clean set at all times and then a dirty set that we had worn for the day that we'd wash and dry. The only problem we really ran into with that setup was some of the clothes, especially Jed's pants. They were really thick and sometimes they just didn't really dry well in the amount of time we had. So our tip here would be to just try to pick clothes that you know are going to dry fast. Do a trial run, wash them by hand, at home and then hang them out and see how long it takes them to dry. It's going to give you a good idea if they're going to work for you on the Camino or not.
Another tip for planning for the Camino, if you do any kind of outdoor activity, you've probably heard the term dress in layers before. This is no different, just a little longer, so keep that in mind. We took 3 pairs of socks, highly recommended for letting your feet dry out. There were days on the Meseta where our feet were super sweaty, and despite taking frequent wet rest breaks in order to dry our feet, our socks were still wet.
Another tip here is do not take any cotton socks or anything like that. You really want to take synthetic or wool socks, something that's going to dry quickly for you and not be soaked at the end of the day. So we both took Croc shower shoes. The idea was that we could wear them both in the evenings for walking around town and in the shower. They were actually water shoes, and they were a little uncomfortable at the end of the day. They were snug on our feet, and if you're out walking for 8-10 hours a day, your feet start to swell, and they just weren't very comfortable. So if we had it to do over, we would just do a regular flip-flop or something like that for the evenings.
So I think some of the most essential items that you should take on the Camino are hats, gloves, and my personal favorite is a buff. So I'm not a huge fan of sunscreen, so I prefer to cover up than slather on sunscreen, mainly because I'm super forgetful and I'll end up looking like a lobster or end up reapplying my sunscreen after I'm already burnt to a crisp.
So up next, the one thing that we absolutely did not use in our pack the entire time we were on the Camino was our headlamp.
So I did not carry a wallet on the Camino. However, I did carry a travel pouch / wallet thing. This is really a personal preference. The main thing about carrying your passport, your credentials, your cash, you want to make sure you have some way to waterproof it. Sandy's credential actually got a little bit of water seepage. It was kind of a crazy day, but water did manage to get inside of her travel wallet, and it made the ink smear. We were able to save it. It wasn't a huge disaster, but after that we put all of our important documents inside of Ziploc bags.
So next, let's talk about toiletries. I'm a girl. We like toiletries. We like a lot of toiletries. But for the Camino, it's not a fashion show. Keep it simple. All you really need is a toothpaste and toothbrush and something to wash yourself and your clothes with. So just a little bottle of shampoo, a little bottle of some type of soap that you can use. If you have really tangly hair or something like that, a small bottle of conditioner, and of course anything that you need medically wise, like if you wear contacts, your solutions and things like that. But keep your toiletries simple.
So one of the big questions everyone has is, should I or should I not take trekking poles? In my case, so our packs were heavier than normal. I thought they were indispensable in keeping me upright for the majority of the trip. I actually only used one because I did have a camera in my hand, or one hand or the other at any given time. So I actually only used one. It worked quite well, and I actually did end up losing one by leaving it behind at a cafe.
Yeah, so I love my trekking poles, especially there are a couple places where the downhill is pretty rough on the trail, and my knees really don't like the downhill, and the trekking poles help take a lot of pressure off of your knees. So next up is a first aid kit or blister supplies. We really suggest that you don't need a big first aid kit. I would take a couple basics, maybe a little bit of Compeed, some tape to tape your feet, some ibuprofen or your pain reliever of choice to help with any discomfort you're having. Again, those pharmacies are widely available. You can get a lot of this. Don't carry a big old pack. Have enough to get you through a situation if you have one to get you to the next pharmacy, but don't carry a big first aid kit. Just carry the basics.
So something else we carried on the Camino, earplugs and eye masks. So I like eye masks. They keep all the ambient light out. Sometimes there's going to be a pilgrim with a huge flashlight trying to make their way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I never had a situation where it woke me up. So if you like to sleep with it at home, bring one with you. They're lightweight.
Earplugs. You want earplugs if you're staying in the albergues. So one of the next areas of dispute as far as gear goes is, do I carry a water bottle or do I carry a water bladder? We chose water bottles, and we actually just went to the store, bought a 3/4 liter bottle, and we just kept refilling it along the Camino. It worked perfectly for us. It was an obvious choice for us because we were carrying a lot of electronics. We didn't want to have our bladder in our packs and risking the possibility of it leaking and leaking onto all of our electronics. There's plenty of water along the Camino, tons of water, with the exception of a few longer portions of the Camino. So you're able to constantly refill, and it really lets you see exactly how much you're drinking and how much you have left when you have a water bottle. So we're on team water bottle.
So something else we took with us was safety pins. We carried them to act as clothespins. In case your stuff doesn't dry out at night after you hand wash it, or there's no dryer available, then you can just attach stuff to the back of your pack, just let it hang there, provided that it's nice and sunny the next day, and just let stuff dry as you walk the Camino.
So while either will work for you, we just like the safety pins a little better because it gives us the flexibility to take our stuff and dry it on the go. So everybody out there wants to take a few luxury items, those items you don't really need to have with you on the Camino, but you want because they're either what you do or they're going to enhance your experience. For us, that was our camera gear. So obviously we had to take camera gear with us to make our videos along the way. It added a lot of weight for us, but it was something we were willing to do. So you know, it may not be for everybody, but if you're willing to carry the extra weight to bring something you love with you and you can safely carry that weight, then by all means do it. We're not going to discuss all of our electronics in this video again. You can see everything we took in our other video. We are, however, going to make another video here in the next week or two about everything we took and how it worked for us, for anybody who does like doing video and is interested in what we did.
So remember guys, it's your Camino. So you can make your pack as heavy or as light as you want, as long as you're able to walk the Camino and it doesn't become a huge burden. At any point during the Camino, if you wanted to mail something forward, we saw that a lot on the Camino, you can always do that as well.
Yeah. So, you know, lighter obviously is better. So you do want to keep your pack as light as you can, but still be comfortable with what you're carrying.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for our revisiting our packing list. If you like what you saw in this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed as of yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. There's also a little bell that gives you a little notification anytime that we post a new video.
If you have any questions about anything we talked about today, go ahead and leave your questions in the comments. Or if you think we forgot something or there's anything else you want to know, we're happy to answer all your questions. Just message us, okay?
All right, guys, that's all for now. We'll catch you next time.